Good afternoon. This is the Board of County Commissioners meeting. It is Tuesday, April 26, 2022. It is 2:04 p.m. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menser. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. We are joined today by County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as our clerk of the board. I'm calling this meeting to order. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Menser, would you like to do a land acknowledgement?
Yes, ma'am. We would also like to start today's meeting with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the indigenous Salish peoples who have lived on and cared for the land and waterways of this county since time immemorial, and who still inhabit the area today, specifically the Squaxin Island, Nisqually, and Chehalis people, our sovereign tribal partners. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. The purpose of this acknowledgement is to disrupt ongoing erasure of injustices done and to remember history as a stepping stone towards healing.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the Tuesday, April 26th agenda.
I move for approval of the proposed agenda for Tuesday, April 26, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menser?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. Next is the approval of the board meeting minutes from April 19th.
I move approval of board meeting minutes from April 19, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menser?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have a presentation, Proclamation for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The month of May was selected to commemorate the arrival of the first known Japanese immigrant to the United States on May 7, 1843, and to honor the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad on May 10, 1869. This Heritage Month was first celebrated by 1 week by President Jimmy Carter, then extended to 1 month by President George Bush, who signs into law in 1992. We have members of our community present this afternoon. I will give you the opportunity to address the board if the board have any questions for you. First, I have Mr. Kyoki Kanawari. Please, unmute yourself.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that last year I talked about many of the contributions Asians and Pacific Islanders wove into the fabric of America. But this year's proclamation, for me, highlights the need to not only acknowledge and celebrate multiculturalism, but also the understanding that our contributions to this country are not only our marvelously varied and complex contributions to math and science, our cuisines, our art forms, and our philosophies, but also that our struggles, sacrifices, and sufferings are an integral part of our national identity, of American history, American heritage, and a hope for a better and brighter future. And I want to thank the commissioners for this acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Nicole Oliver.
Hello, my name is Nicolette Oliver. I want to thank the commissioners for making this proclamation. I believe it's more important than ever, especially given our most recent census data that shows that Thurston County is one of the fastest growing regions in the state for Pacific Islanders. And so I want to thank you for this proclamation and let you know that me and my children, though we are homesick today, we are celebrating by making some Filipino ube bibingka. So thank you so much for this celebration.
Well, that sounds good. Next, I have Ms. Lynn Crowley.
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lynn Polly. I'm here with the Asian Pacific Islanders Coalition, South Puget Sound, but also we appreciate the opportunity to hear about this proclamation. As already spoken so well by Keoki and Nicolette, our API's contribution in these communities are numerous, and we really appreciate the opportunity for the commissioners to actually use your official time to acknowledge that and to actually share with everyone that we are here to stay, and we really appreciate, again, for the acknowledgement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't think I have anybody else on this Zoom screen, but if you like to provide testimony related to this proclamation this afternoon, please unmute yourself. That's it, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Edwards?
No, I'm just ready for the proclamation, and I want to thank those in attendance for coming. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Menzer?
Yep, thank you to Keoki and Nicolette, who I count as friends, and Lynn, thank you for being here again to help us celebrate this important proclamation, and I'm ready to read it whenever you are, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, I'm just going to echo those words. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming here today. It really is a cause for celebration. So thank you for coming and for sharing your words with us. I'm ready for the proclamation, sir.
Thurston County Proclamation, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month was first celebrated for 1 week by President Jimmy Carter, then expanded to 1 month by President George H.W. Bush and signed into law in 1992. And whereas the month of May was selected to commemorate the arrival of the first known Japanese immigrant to the United States on May 7th, 1843, and to honor the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad on May 10th, 1869. And whereas Washington State has been home to generations of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders for more than 200 years, contributing greatly to the government, businesses, arts, sciences, medicines, education, and military. And whereas we acknowledge Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is marked by deeply rooted history, including both proud and painful chapters and the challenges of institutional and systemic injustices. And whereas this year's theme, Advancing Leaders Through Purpose-Driven Service, focuses on diversity and leadership to advance the AAPI community and speaks to the determination of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to serve others while working towards inclusion. And whereas Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have shared their traditions and rich culture while representing their communities through public service for all citizens, and whereas we commit to the recognition of all Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in Thurston County and the nation, and to providing comprehensive support to this community. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners hereby proclaims May 2022 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Month in Thurston County, and encourages all citizens to celebrate the accomplishments and sacrifices that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have made. Adopted this 26th day of April 2022 by the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you very much. Okay, so with that, we will move on for the opportunity for the public to address the board. And we'll start with those in the boardroom. We'll start with Mr. John Pettit. So there are some guidelines before Mr. Pettit starts. The Board of Thurston County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public. However, there are some guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate and do not take advantage of the fact that most meetings are televised. The general speaking guidelines are as follows. Please introduce yourself, including the address you reside in the county. Please address the board, not the audience or staff. Please silence your cell phones for those in the boardroom. Speakers are limited to a total of 4 minutes to address the board. Meeting attendees cannot donate their speaking time to another person. No comments that are lewd and offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in nature. Please be respectful. No outburst of any kind. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business All materials provided to the county may be considered public records, subject to public release upon request pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 4256 of the RCW. No remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could eventually come before the board and appeal. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Mr. Pettit, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is John Pettit. I live on Rich Road. Earlier I had sent, I got up late, so you didn't get it until just before 6 this morning. A couple of particular items that I had intend for making public comment on. One of them is we're into an election year. And election years have responsibilities for properly following the laws that the Public Disclosure Commission has laid out. And one of them has to do with what's referred to as public service announcements. And that's RCW 42.17A.575. Just so it's clear on the record, no municipal officer may speak or appear in a public service announcement that is broadcast, shown, or distributed in any form whatsoever during the period beginning January 1st and continuing through the general election if that official or officer is a candidate. I'll follow that up with the next sentence, which is, if the official or officer does not control the broadcast, showing, or distribution of a public service announcement in which he or she speaks or appears, then the official or officer shall contractually limit the use of public service announcement to be consistent with this section prior to participating in the public service announcement. The next portion, the section does not apply to public service announcements that are part of a regular duties of the office, like this meeting here. This isn't a public service announcement. That only mention or visually display the office or the seal or logo and do not mention or visually display the name of the official or officer in the announcement. Now, I haven't done anything as far as making a public a request or a complaint to the PDC. I am aware that there is a process that may be occurring, and the county commissioner's office needs to make sure that you're not trying to benefit a particular person that may be running for office. This is not just a county commissioner office, but other offices also have to use the same technique. So we have to make sure you're not breaking the boundaries. The other issue, which I am going to make an advanced statement about, has to do with the emergency housing interim ordinance. You know, I'm going to go back to this part about actions speak louder than words. The whole concept that you have this emergency housing ordinance, it's not an emergency, people. You know why it's not an emergency? You've had this for 3 years. It doesn't make it an emergency, it makes it an event that you need to be handling. Okay, the second part to this is you have a system and it's never been used. Why? Because it's too egregious to have anybody have to actually use the system you have in place. It's a useless, and I think you referred to it as a tool in the box. A tool in the box that doesn't work is no value at all. Now, I'm going to suggest if you are going to be working on this and you're going to be announcing you're going to have it, create a provision that every single individual property owner, subject to covenants and conditions of their titles on their property, subdivisions, et cetera, would have the ability just to house one person. Let them pull a motorhome up, plug it in, and help provide housing for the public. You say you're worried about it, well, stop putting so many restrictions that limit everybody from doing it and helping. I probably illegally have 2 on my property right now. But you know what? You got to do what's right. And I would suggest if you really are meaningful and concerned about the homeless population, maybe you could have someone park in your driveway and plug them in and let them have a little electricity rather than making them live in the environment that's currently provided down in Olympia. Yes, I'm happy to be done. I'm sure you've had enough to hear today.
Next, Terry Ballard.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's Terry Ballard. I'm a 35-year veteran and also a Navy shellback. Figure that one out. I was noticing that Mr. Menzer removed the land acknowledgement. Well, we still have stuff going into Bud Inlet. We still have affluent going when it's heavy rains. Your illicit sewer and stormwater combination floods the sewage treatment plant sitting down there in downtown Lacey, and they have to open the floodgates to pour raw sewage into our sound. Well, at least Mr. Romero Chavez over there, he acknowledged that we have one of the best sewer systems as far as the county is concerned with. Yeah, that was by the people that actually sold us the equipment. Isn't that nice? People selling you the equipment and then telling you how good your sewer system is. Lakewood, I was glad to see Lakewood Way is the potholes are repaired, so we don't have cones and driving around. But Olympia needs to get some more shovel ready to fill up a couple more of those. Job description, duty performance. Information is not power. Information should be used to the lowest level possible. Okay? Racism. You have race, color, creed, natural origin, and gender. I am a equal opportunity representative, and I served for 8 years doing that job in the military and was trained to do that. Okay? When we have these boards, we just don't look at ethnicity. We look at all races, all genders, everybody. It doesn't, the thing that happened first up was, why do we have all these ethnic people here when we have an equal opportunity representative training? It should be across the board, okay? As far as the power is knowledge, it should be used to the lowest level possible. He has you operating in a bubble. You can't get out of the bubble. So how is your districts going? How is the homeless people in your districts going? How is your veterans doing? Do we still have homeless veterans? Okay, we shouldn't have homeless veterans. How are they doing? How are you doing in your districts? Well, he wants you to be totally about the county. I'm about the people in the county. I'm about the people in the district, okay? You guys have lost sight of that, okay? You're operating in a bubble. Now, to get out of this bubble, you have to have permission. I'll be glad when we get 300,000 in this county so we can have 5 commissioners, so 2 can discuss anything they want, okay? I'm glad to hear it. And I don't really care if non-citizens or citizens are counted on the census. I want to get there. I want to get to 300,000, okay? He continues to control you when you need to check and balance at lower levels. Whatever he says, you need to check and balance, but he has limited that operation to do that. Leadership. I use leadership all my life. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage to do what is right. He might use it as a punch card. You might use it as a punch card to get reelected. You need to do a little bit more leadership. As far as his role as manager, before I run out of time, I'd like to read one qualification that he needed to become a manager. Bachelor's degree in accounting, finance, business, or public administration, or related field. Master's degree is preferred. Is he qualified? No, he's not. Thank you.
Next is Johanna.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Johanna, East Olympia, off the Rainier Road. Today I'm here as a citizen, a private citizen, an individual. First thing I'd like to say is I watched your meeting this morning and was, as a taxpayer, as a citizen of this county, as a property owner, and as an individual, and as one of your thousands of bosses in this county, I was highly disappointed in the chippiness from the 3 of you this morning. Very, very disappointed. You're supposed to be professionals, but instead you were chipping at each other. It's out there on the YouTube channel. Go watch it if you don't think you were. Next, I'd like to say that I'm very disappointed that your committees and advisory committees have become political tools for you. I have asked for years now that you not make your advisory committees political tools, but it seems that you continue to want to do that. Your advisory committees, as that citizen, as that taxpayer, as that property owner, as one of your thousands of bosses in this county, I want you getting the very best people to advise you. And when you make it a political tool, you're not doing that. That's all I have to say today. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, public testimony? No, thank you. Let me go to the Zoom screen, Madam Chair. Based on the order that I have is Ms. Ann Burney would like to provide testimony this afternoon. Next, I have Ms. Jane Upland. Next, I have Ms. Karen Mesmer. Go ahead, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for taking public comment. I am Karen Mesmer, a member of the Thurston Climate Action Team Electric Vehicle Group. We are working to promote the adoption of electric vehicles in our region. I live in Olympia. A great way for people to learn about electric vehicles is to talk with people who own and drive them. I'm here to invite you to our community to the Electric Vehicle Show on April 30th, this coming Saturday, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Olympia High School. This will be on the North Street side of Olympia High School. At this event, you can talk with local people who own electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles and learn about their cars. You'll be able to see and tour 24 different models. And one of the Olympia School District electric school buses will also be there. This is a non-commercial event. It's free. This is a collection of people who are excited about having an electric car and are happy and willing to talk with people about them so that they can better understand them. The show is sponsored by the Thurston Climate Action Team, the Olympia High School Climate Action Club, and this is all in cooperation with the National Drive Electric Earth Day month-long celebration. You can visit the Thurston Climate Action Team website for more details, and I will also send an email to the commissioners with an invitation so you have the details. I hope to see you on Saturday for this event.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I have Ms. Stacy Wyman. I believe that concludes public testimony, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next is the county manager's update.
I don't have any specific follow-ups based on last week's public testimony, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to department items. Item 3A is the approval of the voucher list for the week of April 11th.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Usually those items are included in your consent agenda. You had a conversation this morning. And the items 3A and 3B are related. Item 3A is for the week of April 2022 on the amount of $5,730,330.89. And that encompasses all the business transactions for the services the county has received over the week. And the reason that we have this on the department item is mainly related to the item 3B, which is the voucher for the week of April 18, 2022. So under normal circumstances, this report is sent to the Board of County Commissioners a week in advance. For instance, the voucher list for April 18th was sent this past Friday. And that was April 23rd, I believe. April 22nd, and that was sent to you on 2:08 in the afternoon. Likewise, for the item on 3A, for the week of April 11th, that report was sent to you on April 15th, just about the same time. And again, the reason as to why the board discussed to having those items is mainly related to item 3B, and it was based on the request of Commissioner Edwards to bring any particular items that is included on the voucher list on the payments related to the atrium, to the 3000 Pacific. So on item 3A for the $5,730,330.89, there is no items related to the atrium. On item 3B, there is one item related to the atrium. That item is located on page 27 under item number 9206, and this is related to the atrium improvements for the amount of $3,489.42. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you for that clarification.
Commissioner Menzer?
Since we're doing the April 18th without our intervening Tuesday morning that we would have had, I do have a question, which may not know the answer to, County Manager. I've been noticing in the last couple, we've got the Blake LFO payments.
Yep.
And I know that we discussed during the legislative session, I know there was talk with the state about, is there a way that they would directly pay these, and are we going to have to do reimbursement? I'm assuming by seeing these structured in this way that we pay them and then we submit to the state?
Yeah, that's a reimbursable basis.
And are we getting those payments back then from the state?
Yes.
That's process is running fairly smoothly?
Yeah, and it's working. As you may recall, and I'm going to call your quote during the budget process that perhaps the amount that was set aside for Blake may not be materializing. We may see a perhaps indication that perhaps that is the case. We have a set amount given us by the state, and based on the rate of expenditures related to the LFOs, we're not meeting quite there. So, but we continue to process those. And at some point, I will bring I want to wait maybe a couple more months to have a more global perspective as to how many LFOs will have paid and how much. And I will.
So if I end up being right and we budgeted conservatively and there ends up being money, does that money then go back to work on Blake backlog, like other Blake related, or what would that money?
That will be up to the discretion of the board.
Okay, there might be more flexibility than that. Okay, very good.
You? Okay. I have a question in regards, and I'm not sure if now is the right time. I thought there was something that changed with the legislature with the Blake LFOs payments and how that was reimbursed.
It's for this upcoming year.
It's for the.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, with that, I am ready for a motion.
Okay, on item 3A, I move for approval of the voucher list for the week of April 11th, 2022 for a combined amount of $5,730,330.89.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
My only question would be, I believe the county manager answered that. There's no atrium expenditure on this voucher. Is that right, sir?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. Item 3B is the approval of the voucher list, and this is the one we just discussed as well. So with that, I'm ready for a motion.
Move to approve the voucher list for the week of April 18, 2022 for a combined amount of $1,721,575.45.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I would just defer with the county manager that this one does include expenditure for the atrium.
Yes, sir. It is on page 27. On the amount of $3,489.42.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Mentor?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to Commissioners' items, item 4A, Thurston County Grant Policy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to cover for the Assistant County Manager of Campbell. The item before you is for you to consider approve a revised Thurston County grant policy. Counties are required by state and federal law to have policies regarding the acceptance, use, and management of grants, both state and federal. The grant policy, the last updated here in the county was way back in 2009, October. Since that time, as expected, there have been many changes in the state and federal rules related to the grants and how we need to manage and comply with the requirements. The county policy, as a result, needs to be updated to include those changes. The revised policy was drafted by our county grant manager. It has gone through a peer review process that included the county policy committee, key members of the auditor's office, financial services, the assistant county manager itself, and the county financial management committee, which includes the county treasurer, the county auditor, and the county manager. I believe this morning, Commissioner Edwards asked a good question as to what the sense of urgency. And this is important to have this policy approved by the board before the state auditor's office conducts the 2021 audit to the county. Last year, they stated as an opportunity for the county to update that policy, and this is what we bring in this matter before you. The copy of the policy was distributed to the board members, I believe, last Tuesday. And if you, barring any questions, I will ask the board to consider approving this policy.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I just want to affirm that there was new legislation passed by the state of Washington that requires us to update this policy.
Yeah.
Is that right?
The ever-changing state law, yes, sir.
And it was also reviewed by legal?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Munzer? I don't have questions as well. With that, if there's no further discussion, I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve the resolution adopting the revised Thurston County grant policy.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Aye. Oh.
Commissioner Edwards?
Why was in such a hurry?
So, Ange.
Aye.
Commissioner Mentor?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. On to Community Planning and Economic Development, item 5A, request for qualifications for facilitator for stakeholder work group to update long-term agriculture designation criteria and mapping. And Christina is here.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Christina Chapeau, Community Planning Manager with CPED. Community Planning is seeking to issue a request for qualifications from a qualified firm interested in providing professional services, consulting services to facilitate a stakeholder work group to review and update the designation criteria and mapping for agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance. Counties planning under the Growth Management Act are required to designate agricultural lands following minimum guidelines established under WAC 365-190-050. And this is part of the docketed community-driven review of agricultural projects. In January of 2022, the Board of County Commissioners set the scope for reviewing and updating the designation criteria and mapping for agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance and directed a targeted approach to consider updating specific designation criteria. Staff anticipates needing qualified and experienced firms to provide expert support in facilitating a stakeholder work group to review and update the designation criteria and mapping for agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance. And this work will include, but is not limited to, facilitation of stakeholder work group meetings, preparation of material meeting minutes, and preparation of and record of any options developed. Community planning is requesting this as a third-party facilitator will allow us to function as a neutral party in the work group, presenting historical and background information and preparing work products that the stakeholder work group comes up with. So upon a receipt, review, and scoring of the submitted statements for qualification, community planning will enter into contract negotiations with the highest rated consultant firm, and subsequently those contracts will be brought back before the county commissioners for final approval. The action is in alignment with Thurston County Strategic Initiatives number 6 and number 7. And if there are any questions, I'm here.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions. We've had a lot of discussion about this. Thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
Chris, can you explain, I think we've gone through this at a previous work session, but I'd like to ask again, is this request for a stakeholder work group driven by a legal requirement of some kind, or a best practice, or a historical practice of the county, or is it just staff's recommendation that the nature of this would benefit? I mean, where exactly is this coming from?
Sure. So stakeholder work groups with a large project like this are best practices and are part of historic work that we have done in the past.
Okay, thank you.
County Manager, you have a question?
Hey, Chris, can you elaborate? I think this project was originated based on FutureWise, challenge based on the growth, some of the actions they took back in 2020. Am I correct?
Yes.
Or?
That is correct.
Okay.
This work is in response to an ongoing appeal to the Growth Management Hearings Board. FutureWise did appeal the county's comprehensive plan update, and the Growth Management Hearings Board did uphold that appeal. It's also in response to the community's request to review our agricultural policies and processes.
Chris, so my question is in regards, just seeing the RFQ right over here, I see that you have some substantial dates for some of the meetings, like meeting 1 for July 2022, as well as meeting 2, meeting 3 for August. And so there's a really quick turnaround on here. Can you kind of explain just that turnaround and the timeline, the future timeline for this?
Yes, so those are anticipated dates. Those may come to fruition based on the stakeholder groups, but we do want to move this particular project forward. As I mentioned, this is in response to an ongoing appeal with the Growth Management Hearings Board, and we do want to show that we are being responsive.
Thank you. Okay. Is there no further questions? Oh, County Manager, you have one more?
Just one more item. Chris, I believe the Planning Commission is supportive of this item as well, right?
That is correct.
Thank you.
They are very supportive.
Okay. With that, I'm ready for a motion.
I move to authorize the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development to issue a request for qualifications for a facilitator for a stakeholder work group to update designation criteria and mapping for agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menser?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. Our next item, item 5B, is set a public hearing for renewal of interim emergency housing ordinance 15792. And Leah?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Leah Davis with Community Planning. This item is regarding the renewal of the interim emergency housing ordinance, which has come before you a few times. There are no proposed changes for this renewal. This interim ordinance was first adopted in June of 2019 after the Board of Health declared homelessness a health emergency. Because the Growth Management Act requires renewal of interim ordinances every 6 months through a public hearing, It was renewed twice in 2020 and twice in 2021. This may be the final renewal as staff is drafting a permanent emergency housing ordinance, tentatively holding a public hearing before the end of the year. So in order to facilitate effective and timely service for emergency homeless encampment permits, the interim ordinance offers waivers to some regulations for homeless encampments. They include limitations on size, maximum number of residents, parking standards, distance from a bus stop, right-of-way limitations, visual separation from other uses, keeping a log of residents, requiring verifiable ID, having a security tent, allowing visitors, maintaining a numbering system, and requiring liability insurance. Also, the prohibition of the use of heating and cooking appliances within RVs can be waived. The standards that are allowed to be waived are generally not directly related to public health and safety. A waiver by the director is allowed for 6 months. The waiver can be extended beyond the 6 months if the board holds a public hearing and finds that a public health emergency continues to exist. There are requirements the director does not have the option to waive and are generally related to public health and safety. They include the requirement for sanitary portable toilets, standards requiring temporary structures to conform to building codes, fire safety requirements, requirement of the host to provide a code of conduct, and the requirement of encampment residents to sign an agreement to abide by the code of conduct, requirement of the sponsoring agency to self-manage and self-police, and the director cannot waive the prohibition of alcohol, drugs, fighting, abuse, littering, or disruption of neighbors. This interim ordinance applies to the rural county and the urban growth areas. It is important to note that no homeless encampment has ever been permitted, so no waivers to the regulations have been granted. The ordinance does not do the following. It does not outright eliminate any requirements. It merely offers the director the option to waive some requirements. It does not consider or establish a camp in the rural county or in urban growth areas. Any future encampment proposal must go through the permitting process to be approved. This interim ordinance will expire June 9th unless the board takes action, and in order to renew it, the board must hold a public hearing. So staff is recommending the board move to set a public hearing for May 24th, 2022. I'm available for questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No.
The ordinance is available, and it starts on page 145 for any of the members of the public who would like to view it. If there's no further discussion, I'm ready for a motion.
Move to set a public hearing for May 24th, 2022 at 3 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may be heard at the Thurston County Courthouse Building 1, room 280, to accept public comment on the renewal of Ordinance 15792 regarding the interim emergency housing ordinance.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, sir.
My concern on this ordinance is that there is no recognizing local folks that have fallen on hard times over folks from out of our community and around the nation that have fallen on hard times. And I would very much like to see us prioritize any services to our community to be served by the folks that are paying taxes on our new home fund tax that's going to generate probably about $50 million, I would guess, over the next 10 years. And I would like to see those resources spent on local community members or their families first that have fallen on hard times. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Menser?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. So this will have a public hearing for May 24th, 2022 at 3 p.m. for citizens interested. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Next is Public Health and Social Services. Item 6A, Amendment 2 to Department of Health 2022-2024 Consolidated Contract, number CLH 31030.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, Interim Director of Public Health and Social Services. I'm here to request the Board of County Commissioners approve an amendment to the Washington State Department of Health Consolidated Contract, also known as the CONCON, number CLH 31030. Amendment 2 increases the amount of the contract by $1,720,051 for a total amount of $6,008,452 for the contract duration of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024, and also authorize the Interim Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the amendments and future amendments that do not exceed 10%. The Board of County Commissioners approved the base contract on January 11th and Amendment 1 on March 15th with the understanding that the Department of Health would send amendments with the scope of work and funding in future funding distributions. This contract is the mechanism to use to transmit federal and state funding for the public health services to the county. Here's a list of what areas are funded in Amendment 2. There's $6,000 for a swimming beach grant, $83,500 for epidemiology laboratory capacity, $1,205,470 for an enhancing detection expansion capability, $236,423 for COVID cares carry forward, $105,300 for emergency preparedness to support and sustain emergency preparedness, resilience, and response, and $83,358 to implement strategies for syringe services participants in accessing vaccines, substance use disorder treatment, and other health conditions. I'm available for your questions, but that concludes my presentation for this item.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, Kurt, you mentioned that this was, we passed a base contract, but that's same as an umbrella that earlier on in the year that covers this whole thing, and this is about money coming in?
It's about the money coming in from the Department of Health, and that base contract started the process, and these amendments are bringing in the actual funding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menzer?
Nothing.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
Move to approve Amendment 2 to the State of Washington Department of Health Consolidated Contract, CLH 31030, providing a maximum consideration of $6,008,452 for the duration of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024, and authorize the Interim Director of Public Health and Social Services to execute the amendment and future amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. Item 6B, Amendment 3 to Department of Health 2022-2024 Consolidated Contract, number CLH 31030. Kurt?
Hello again, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, Interim Director of Public Health. Requesting the board approve Amendment 3 to the State of Washington Department of Health Consolidated Contract, also known as the CONCON, number CLH 31030. Amendment 3 increases the amount by $78,517 for a total amount of $6,086,969 for the contract duration January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024, and authorize the Interim Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the amendments and future amendments that do not exceed 10%. The board approved the base contract, as I mentioned earlier, on January 11th, Amendment 1 on March 15th, and just a few moments ago, Amendment 2, with the understanding that the Department of Health would send amendments with the scope of work and funding in the future. This contract is the mechanism, again, to use to transmit federal and state funding for public health services to the county. Amendment 3 adds the $78,517 in the following areas: youth tobacco, vaping, and prevention, overdose data to support state agency data collection, and then also carry forward for perinatal hepatitis B activities. I'm available for your questions that you may have on this item.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve Amendment 3 to the State of Washington Department of Health Consolidated Contract CLH 31030, providing a maximum consideration of $6,086,969 for the duration of January 1, 2022 through December 31st, 2024, and authorize the Interim Director of Public Health and Social Services to execute the amendment and future amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next, we'll go on to our standing items. Item 7A, Commissioners will report on board work sessions and assigned committee meetings, providing updates on actions taken as well as upcoming issues. Commissioner Edwards, we will start with you.
Attended the State of the City address down in Tenino with the chair. Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization Governing Board. Somebody can come up with an acronym for that, like that. Also did an interview whether in reference to class and comp study stakeholder interview, and Shoreline Hearing Board training with Commissioner Menzer. And just about do it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menzer?
Yeah, it was a very busy week. Shoreline Hearings Board training, attended the Fair Board's fundraising sale over the weekend, attended the Tenino Spring Arts Market over the weekend, attended the Chehalis Basin Partnership on Friday, attended the Climate Action Steering Committee meeting yesterday, was reelected vice chair for the upcoming year. Attended the Monarch Center fundraising breakfast this morning, attended the Dispute Resolution Center ribbon cutting over the weekend, attended a fundraiser for Marshall Middle School CSI program, attended the WASAC assembly with the candidates for the NACO second vice president yesterday, did an informational program on our racial equity work, and took a lot of phone calls and meetings, again, regarding DNR cuts in Capitol State Forest.
Thank you. It was a busy week for me. I did the WASAC virtual attending. This weekend I went to the Dispute Resolution Center for the ribbon cutting. I did the market ride for inner city transit this weekend. I realized how hard it is to put one of those little child seats into the bike. I struggled with that. So I attended the CRAB board meeting, and that one was very interesting. Whatcom was requesting $10 million from a fund, and basically it would take $17,000 out of the Thurston County Road Fund because it takes a percentage from each of the county's road funds. I voted no for that, and it did get shut down. So I was joking around. I was like, if I would have said yes for it, Commissioner Edwards would have had my neck in this one. So I just wanted to let you know, Commissioner Edwards, I was thinking of you while that was going through.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Commissioner.
$10 million for what?
So they wanted $10 million. It's they qualify for
the ferry program.
For a ferry program. And it was a very interesting conversation. I didn't know this even existed, the things you learn, right? But there's only a couple of counties who qualify for this if they have kind of a ferry system. And they can request this if they've used, per the RCW, every available fund that they have. They still had a lot of capacity in their road fund, but they didn't want to use it because they said they didn't want to tax their base. And so my question back to them was like, so you want me to tax our base. Like that's, it's not fair to all of it. And so it was pretty unanimous after that conversation that, we couldn't move forward with that, but.
Well, they didn't get their
No,
request.
no, they did not. I know that they were requesting funds and grants from other sources, but just how the RCW is laid out, there was no wiggle room. So, and the fact that they had this capacity in their own road fund. I attended the RHC exec team meeting, and then I also did the class and comms study interview. And I had attended the State of the City address in Tenino. And I always post my calendar on Friday for citizens who would like to see what I am up to. That is always available on my professional Facebook page. With that, we'll go on to item B. The county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule for the week of April 26, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me walk you through your combined schedule where at least 2 commissioners will be present. You may have individual appointments on your individual calendars. Those will not be part of my report. Beginning here in a couple minutes, you have a public hearing related to amendments to the fiscal year 2019 HUD Annual Action Plan, as well as the 2020 HUD Annual Action Plan. Tomorrow, Wednesday, April 27 at noon, you have been invited to participate on the Racial Equity Luncheon, hosted by Nicole Miller, our Racial Equity Program Manager. On Thursday, April 28th at 8 a.m., you will have a briefing related to the Budget Amendment Number 1. At 10 in the morning, you have your regular Commissioners check-in. At noon, you have a nonprofit community on rental assistance. And that is going to be an opportunity for all the nonprofits to come and join the board, where they will be asking you, have the opportunity to interact with you related to rental assistance. We have asked the nonprofits to submit advanced questions. We're still waiting for that, and I will make those available as soon as we receive those. And also on Thursday, April 28 at 5 in the afternoon, you have been invited to participate in Shipley Recognition Dinner, and that is going to be located at Thurston County Fairgrounds at the Heritage Hall, located at 3054 Carpenter Road, Southeast, Olympia, Washington. Nothing on your combined schedule, April 29. Moving on to Monday, May 2nd, you have your standing Washington State Association of Virtual Assembly, Association of Counties Virtual Assembly, and also double booked, you have a Racial Equity Book Club, again, hosted by Nicole Miller. And moving on to Tuesday, May 3rd, you have your regular agenda setting at 9 in the morning, and in the afternoon, you have your regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. And I believe Commissioner Menser is excused for Tuesday, May 3rd. That's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I wanted to, if you could make the point on Tuesday that I'm at a conference, so
Yes.
it's clear that it's work-related, why I'm not present.
Thank you. Yes. I will write that down right now, actually. And it's a Salmon Recovery Conference, correct?
Right.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we are adjourned. We have a public hearing that's set to start at 3, so we will, I'll give the commissioners 5 minutes for a break, and then we will be back at
3:10.
3:10. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Zoom, right?
And it will be on the new Zoom link, yes.